What is Theology on Tap? How do you reach and teach young adults in a post-Christian age? And is it wrong to drink beer while talking about Jesus? All that and more now on Theology on Air. All right, well, thanks for joining us. We are here every Thursday at 5 o'clock in the KPFT HD2 studio. This is Theology on Air, and I'm Evan McClanahan. I'm the pastor over at First Lutheran. I make them nervous every time I say that, and joined with two of the constant and persistent and strong and wonderful hosts of Theology on Tap, a ministry in Houston that seeks to reach out and actually reach young adults in a truly a post-Christian age. I'm joined by Michael Jarbo of Memorial Drive Methodist Church and Sarah Stone at Memorial Drive Presbyterian Church. Did I get that right? As long as you're at Memorial Drive, I got that about right.
Come to Memorial Drive, you'll find one of us.
There you go. There. Okay, very good. Well, we're going to be talking today. It's an origin story.
Yeah.
It's like Star Wars Episode 1, only a lot better. Yeah, hopefully. And with a much smaller budget, because we're not independently wealthy like George Lucas. But we are going to be talking about the origins of Theology on Tap. What is Theology on Tap, which is now adding Theology on Air as part of our outreach and what we do. We're going to be talking about the greatest hits of Theology on Tap, the things that we got right, or really y'all got right since I'm the newcomer here, and the things that maybe didn't go according to plan. And
that would never happen at Theology on Tap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to be here talking about this. The number here, 713-526-8737. So if you want to call in and you do have a theological question, well, this would be a good day to do it, because someone in this room is certainly to be able to answer the question. So 713-526-8737. We are on Facebook Live. Hello, Facebook Live. Hey, so we will try to look over there and see if there are questions there as well. But of course, go to kpft.org to learn more about KPFT. KPFT, if you don't know, is community-sponsored listener-sponsored community radio. That means that we get to talk for an hour with no commercials, because we do fund drives, and we raise money from our great listeners. So if you love KPFT and the content at KPFT and what KPFT can become and what it already is, go to kpft.org and give as you can, because we cannot do it without you. All right. Sarah Stone.
Yes, Evan McClanahan.
How did Theology on Tap get started? Who had this crazy idea? And what do you say to all the Christians who think that drinking is a horrible sin? No, go ahead.
I agree with that. No, I'm kidding. So Theology on Tap started when a guy named Andy Cunningham called me in the summer of 2015. And we kind of agreed that several churches in that area had smallish young adult groups. We weren't like a booming mega church that had hundreds of people showing up. But we thought if we combined our efforts and did something social that maybe involved beer and some nerdy theology stuff, because we were theology nerds, that maybe we could have some fun. People would enjoy it.
So you got a couple of suitcases of Coors Light.
Oh, gosh.
Well,
craft beer.
That's where I was going. That's
we
where I was
have
going
good
with that.
taste. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
No Miller Lights allowed.
Now let's spend the rest of the show talking about what beers we've had and which was our favorite. No, go ahead.
Oktoberfest
Right.
is mine. Yeah, so we started in 2015, and it has morphed and grown since then. Michael Jarbo has been there from the beginning. And we've had some really good stuff where we talk about relevant or controversial topics. We've had guest speakers. We always have a chance for the people in the audience to text in their questions, like a large format discussion. We've also had some major failures, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit tonight.
Yeah. Well, so you're going to have failures in everything you do, so that's cool. No worries. But I've tried to reach out to young adults too, and then I went to your things. I was like, oh, and these people know how to do it. I'm such a failure.
Because we learned through doing it wrong a few times.
Yeah, and we really striving to find commonality. We're all different churches. We all have young adult programs. Most of us do, and we're just like, let's combine our forces together and work to do this, to have a conversation with one another. And it's been incredible to watch the transformation of a bunch of our young adult groups across West Houston, and then now, I mean, one of the things I love to do is I get to work the door a lot of times when folks come in and check in their, where they're from.
These are bouncers.
Right. The velvet rope was a nice touch.
Just watch your back.
Yeah. Right.
I'm super intimidating. But I love that. The list goes on and on and on with different people and different churches
and people that don't go to church at all.
Do you have the stat, Sarah, of how many churches represented from Theology on Tap?
The last time I checked, it was close to 100.
Yeah, I mean, just from all over.
Yeah,
Houston, and it's just incredible, and beyond, and it's just incredible. People who drive in to come in and be a part of this conversation. Mm-hmm. So I've been so thankful.
Yeah, and it really is people who, from a lot of different points of view, liberal, conservative, unbelievers, believers. So, for example, a quick preview: Christmas, December 10th.
Oh, I'm so excited!
At Kindred here in Montrose, and 7:00. And so it's like Christmas Mythbusters, right? So just quickly say a little bit about that. So
yeah, I'm really excited about this one. We're going to have equal parts atheists and Jesus freaks up at the front on the panel, kind of debating amongst each other, but in a fun, charitable way. And then fielding questions from the audience about Christmas, quote, myths. So it could be anything from the virgin birth that Christians believe in and kind of sounds crazy, or to things like, was Christmas originally a Christian holiday? Spoiler, not really. We kind of stole some stuff. So we'll get into all of that. And
I think that
trivia.
I think that whole Saturnalia thing is way overdone, but that's December 21st, isn't it? But whatever.
That's the longest night.
Yes. Well, there you go. Yeah. Okay. But as an example, you guys have done stuff with, believers,
right?
Unbelievers. You've done stuff where you've talked about some of the social issues. So why don't we do this? Why don't we talk about, let's just go for the gusto here and talk about maybe the worst one. From your point of view, Michael, what was the one that really didn't work?
We probably agree about this.
I think we agree. So I'll take this softball.
As well you should, as a white man, happily married. Spoiler.
Oh, man. All right.
So are we getting into identity politics?
No, actually not.
No. It was just the third one. The third one. We were just at the very beginning of our stages, and we decided to find a theme together, and we were right near Valentine's Day. I don't think it was maybe the day before. Oh, there's the date.
It was the week before Valentine's Day.
Look at this amazing list that Sarah provided with every single show and topic.
Have you heard of Spark Notes? Man, this is like my version of Spark Notes.
I'll charge you later.
Throwback. And on the third week, he rose from the no.
Oh my gosh.
On the third Theology on Tap that we did the subject on love. Now
that nice narrow topic.
Love. Right, love. Yeah, right. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? Well, everything we did. No, we just got our panel as we do. There's sort of an opening dialogue, and then it breaks down to a panel, and we just kind of noticed. I did about midway through, and then Meredith Wendy Mills, who's also on our kind of leadership team, it was one of the first ones she went to. She went because our panel of 5 people were all white straight men who most of us got married right out of college.
18 and a half.
Right, Right. So we were all just experts on love. Yeah, right. The lack of diversity on the panel showed in our answers, because it was just like we'd answer a question and everyone would be like, yeah.
Well, okay, I have to cut in here though, because as the MC, who is a single woman, it was.
We're
funny.
working on that.
Yes. My number is 832. No, I'm kidding. So we had 6. It was actually 6 gentlemen, all happily married.
Yeah.
And most of the people in the audience were actually single. So probably, I'd say easily 75% of the people in the audience were not married. So they would ask a question like, I don't know, like, how do you make love work over the long haul in an age where, I don't know, you have a quick fix or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all the men were like, right down the line, and I'm emceeing this, right? Are all down the line saying things like, oh, my wife is just such a blessing to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it was beautiful for them, but the rest of us out in the audience were kind of like, throw us a bone.
I'm dying inside.
Yeah, like that's what we want, and we don't have it. Thanks for the painful reminder.
Just be honest and tell me your eye wanders from time to time or something. Yeah. But your wife is still more beautiful than.
But we learned from that.
That's
and
right.
We have evolved.
We have evolved greatly. Yeah. Like including women on the panel. That's a shift.
Yes.
That's a shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A healthy one.
So yeah, it is kind of boring for like five guys then to talk about how great their marriage is, and they all started young, and that's what everyone should do.
Yeah.
But so like when you're talking about love, so here are all the possible things, right? You've got the whole same-sex, issues, right? So that has come up recently, which we can get to that soon, and we'll have our show about that soon.
Yeah.
And divorce, adultery, pornography.
Really cheery mood today.
Yeah, well, I
divorce, pornography.
Everything could go wrong. And these things all tie in together. Anyway, but yeah, so no, I'm just saying though that these are all parts of the love scene.
Yeah.
Like dating apps and swiping left and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything about that because that was before my time.
So yeah. Are you a happily married white male as well?
Absolutely. What do you expect me to say?
Congratulations. I'm happy for you.
My wife is miserable, but I'm great. I'm fine. So
well.
Yeah. No, but
it's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. Okay, but so that one didn't work out very well. So is there any others that maybe didn't go according to plan?
I got a couple in my bag.
All right, come on.
So we did one time called "What I Hate About the Church Is," and then it had a blank. And for this one, instead of having the young adult leaders, we had the head pastors of all the churches that represent the leadership team.
Oh, I remember
Our
that.
hope was that it would be a chance to really offer some kind of healing and apologies from the church to people that it's kind of screwed over. And or people that have felt like the church abandoned them in their time of need, which is what really sometimes sends people away from the church.
Right.
So, I mean, we were praying ahead of time. There's just going to be this beautiful time of healing and restoration. But it ended up, I think people maybe were intimidated by having the head pastors there. I don't know. But they weren't really sharing kind of their real struggle with what they actually hate about the church.
Right.
And we also may have had no naming of names, but the panelists themselves, at least one of them was overserved.
Oh, wow.
Uh-oh. So he was, was he a happy drunk?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, so happy.
The problem was that
happy.
all of them kept using the word authentic, which is a great word.
Uh-huh.
They definitely overused it, and people were texting in to me. I get all the texts when I'm the MC.
Yeah.
And people kept saying, could they say authentic one more time? So I decided to kind of make a joke about it as the MC, and then they just took it and ran as if it was a drinking game. People were bringing them beer.
Yeah.
It wasn't our shining moment, but
Yeah.
Onward and upward.
Onward and upward.
What about you? I know.
Oh gosh, one that and help me with and help.
But we're not going to say his name though.
Of course, no. We did one faith and politics, which again, just such a small category of conversation, right? No, and it was right during the 2016 election, if I'm right there. 2017. Well, there was, I mean, just the heat of the election was still pouring over.
People were still
I think it still is. I think people are still mad about it.
Yeah. And so, and kind of a conversation about voting and just really going to the two parties, Republican and Democrat. And so you had a Republican Christian and a Democrat Christian, which already, again, draws multiple lines in the sand.
They're Democratic Christians?
Evan. Fourth form.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah. And
they're Republican Christians?
There
you can't save it now.
Well, he's trying. But then the Republican Christian kind of came up at the very end of his sort of TED Talk like opener conversation and said something along the lines of, if
you love killing babies, vote Democrat, and dropped the mic.
Yeah. And so let's talk about the pro. And I think it was almost, I kind of stumbled out of his hands. He actually did drop the mic and walked away. And it was it was one of those times that
he left the stage?
He left the stage.
Yeah, it was dramatic.
Yeah. The anger must have been building.
It wasn't anger.
Which understandably, that's one of my passion issues too, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Right. But passion mixed with without resolving such a loaded statement left a lot of people really upset, and even told me I'm struggling wanting to come back to Theology on Tap. And so and it's been and a lot of them have come back, but
we ply them with beer so they come back after our mistakes.
right. But
drink responsibly, friends.
But that's therein lies attention, right?
Yeah.
Is and again, I don't think this guy happened to be drunk, but the fluidity of the conversation can sometimes lead us to say things, to make statements in loaded situations. And that's not our goal. Our goal is not to mic drop on different Christians. Our goal is to have a depth of conversation and disagree. And that was one of those moments where I was like, I think we've allowed we've stretched that limit.
Yeah, and just the little background on that, which we have, I think, found our sweet spot, at least in our best moments now, is we had one shortly before then. I didn't realize till I was looking at the list today, where all of the guests did so much qualifying before they actually got to the meat of what they were going to say about, well, and we all love Jesus and we all love each other, that by the time they actually got to the stuff they disagreed about, like, everybody was asleep. So I had told this person, we'll call him Max. I had said, Max, bring a little sass with you. Bring a little fire. You know, I think he brought more than I.
Well,
he brought a 4-alarm natural
like
gas
that.
factory.
So, but we found, I think, the sweet spot where we can disagree about things. Even Michael and I disagree about some stuff charitably,
right,
with a sense of humor, knowing that at the end of the day, we might not vote the same way. We might not think about everything in our theology the same way, but we love each other and we love Jesus and we want other people to know about that.
Yeah.
So.
There's this woman named theologian named Diana Butler Bass who I love, and she talks about just trying to stray away from the conversation around right and left. We're always like, who's on the right, who's on the left? Let's bring those candidates. And she's like, what we should be talking about in the church today is about deep and shallow theology. And what I love is that the best of time, we're talking about the worst of times. The worst of times is when we go very shallow and we stay kind of near the surface and don't really get down into the depth of the theological topic at hand. And so I think these rough times that we've gone through, that not rough times, but these times we're like, I wish we could change that, have helped us to see, okay, what we need to do to go deeper. And that is be more intentional about the way that we're kind to one another and the depth of diversity that's also on the panel.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're listening to Theology on Air. This is a new venture here at KPFT for us. We're here every Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Central Time if you're listening via the podcast. And if you want to call in, we'll be here every Thursday at 5 o'clock Central Time at 713-526-8737. You can call in right now because we are actually live right now on the air.
Hey.
713-526-8737. We'd love to hear from you. One of the things, though, about sort of doing apologetics or outreach, or evangelism is that it's really easy to not want to engage with people who don't already agree with you.
Right.
You can quickly see them as the enemy, or you can kind of see it quickly as a waste of time. So it actually, I don't think it is easy to know exactly like how you can work together. Like what you're afraid of is that you're going to compromise your values, basically, right? So like if I do a ministry with people that I know disagree with me, the question is, well, is there a greater good that I'm getting out of this because different points of views, or is my point of view just getting watered down and lost? And so in general, like in the radio world and the podcast world, where there's a ton of Christian apologetics and, really in the podcast world, they call them radio, but they're not actually radio. Anyway, it's a podcast. That's a different medium. But anyway, this is an actual radio show. I'm proud of that. So, but, in that world, they can create their target audience. It's an echo chamber. It's like-minded
Curated.
people. Yeah. And that kind of is how radio kind of works too. So at, KPFT, it's community radio. It's a whole bunch of different people with a whole bunch of different points of view. So our goal here, I think, is the same, which is, no, we don't all agree, but we do want to get different kinds of people in the room and different kinds of people listening. And we want to be honest. So, yeah. So for the record, I don't mind a little conflict from time to time. So,
and neither do we.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think partly what we've been talking about is a way for everybody to have a voice and have your side, as it were, heard. And I don't think that people are coming in and having their minds changed, but I do think they're appreciating something different when it's done really well.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about some of the times that it was done well then.
Yeah.
Because we hit some low lights, which, I mean, honestly, those aren't that low. I mean, it could have gone a lot worse. Oh, okay. All right.
Oh,
so
man.
good. It's all right.
Well, maybe y'all just tell the story so well. So, all right. But give me an example, like when it worked well, like when you thought,
I think a couple of them that come to mind. The first one where I think we kind of hit our stride was when we had a guy named Jerry Walls, who I think has been on this program before. He's a smarty pants. He and I don't see eye to eye and everything, but I love him and I think he's very wise. Came and talked about why is there suffering in the world? If there really is such a thing as God, if God is good, if he's loving, if he's powerful, then why is there cancer and earthquakes and all those sorts of things? He did a great job of giving kind of a philosophical discussion in like 15 minutes.
Right.
And then the conversation that happened around it was really rich. So that was one of my favorites. And I feel like that helped us kind of hit some of our stride. But then just on a personal note, one of the ones that I loved was we did one shortly thereafter about other religions.
Yeah.
So we had somebody representing Hinduism, Judaism, and Islam. And I got the chance ahead of time to meet all of those leaders. I got to sit in the same room with the Hindu teacher and his wife, and they served me all kinds of delicious Indian food.
Yeah.
And then I got to spend hours with this Muslim family learning all about Islam and actually becoming friends with them, and then later getting invited to their Quran study. Like that was just really cool for me. And that night was fun.
Oh, such a good night. The panel was great and cordial, and the conversation was great. The rabbi that was there, what was her name again?
Laura Scheinhoff.
Gosh, she was so great. And then did we have the the sort of the ecumenical group here in town.
Interfaith Ministries. Gregory Hahn.
Oh gosh, sorry, Gregory.
We love him.
Apologize, brother. I love you. I owe you a meal. Yeah, Gregory Hahn was there. It was a good conversation that night.
Yeah.
That high point for sure.
Yeah.
I liked our conversation on race in the church, and I think we did a really good job of allowing a panel to be diverse. I love that we had Reverend Irv White from a church a Methodist church out in the west side of town come in, and he shared his perspective. I think Irv is in his late 50s, early 60s, and was able to share sort of about the civil rights and his experience. And Christian Washington, who you and I both love from Chapelwood and Upper Room, did such a wonderful job explaining his experience. I mean, he grew up also in LA and was there with a bunch of the riots that happened there with the police. And so sharing those experiences, and also being a Black man working in Piney Point and Hunter Creek, Hunter's Village is a challenge. And he shared those honestly. And so I think the honesty of that night is why one of my highlights was there. And it even kind of made folks feel a little uncomfortable, but not like a icky uncomfortable, like a
waking up uncomfortable.
Yes.
I remember,
right.
I didn't know before Tamla Wilson talked about touching Black people's hair.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing. And now I know.
What about it? Like,
don't do it.
Oh, okay. There you go. All right.
Or
okay.
maybe ask first. Yes. Yeah, so my nephew, I can snuggle with him and whatever, but you don't go up to a stranger.
Right.
And be like, I love your hair. Can I touch it? That's weird,
Sure. My wife is a redhead, and she said she was in China for 4 months teaching English, and they would all come up and touch her hair because they don't see redheads very often. So
yeah.
Well, it's just so important that our worldview is different than others, and we have to remember so Michael Jarbo's worldview is different than so many others, and you can move into conversations around privilege and around power, and those are important conversations to have in the worlds that we live in, and to acknowledge that, and to acknowledge it even weaves into our theology as well. And for a lot of people, that was it was an intro class in a way of saying, oh man, or at least that first prick of like, what can I do differently? How can I be more aware?
Yeah.
And so
I think that was also the one where Oscar got up and said, Oscar Villanueva used to be on our, was on the panel. And he said, how many of the churches you go to have like a daughter church that maybe is like a Spanish speaking congregation? Remember this? And he's like, do you know any of those people? And it was like a pin drop in the room. It was like, we don't.
Oh, but we've got a Spanish speaking.
Yeah, so we can fly that flag proudly. Yeah. Anyway, that was
nothing paternalistic about that at all, right? Yeah. We give them money.
That's right.
Yeah.
And space.
Yeah.
Sure.
So.
Well, cool. Well, yeah. I mean, y'all have done a great job, I think, of bringing different people together. Right. Like the interfaith one. One of my things about interfaith. So when I was in seminary, they would have interfaith conversations, and it would be like Muslim, Buddhism, Hindu, or something, and we'd go to different places and experience different things. But the takeaway was that we all believe in one God. Now that happens not to be my position.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's particularly helpful interfaith dialogue.
Yeah.
I think it actually is a very I think universalism is for example it kind of is a theory, is kind of a privileged position actually, because it's almost like you're saying, well, I believe that there is only one God. Well, then you're imposing your belief about God on Muslims who do not believe that. They do not believe that Muslims and Christians worship the same God.
Allah is not the same as your.
Yeah.
We mentioned Gregory Hahn, and I hope I don't misrepresent him. Greg, if you're listening, I hope I'm saying this right, but he has done such a great job when he gets up in front to speak to mixed groups. He'll say things like, we have so much to learn from each other and so much richness in each of our faiths, and yet they're not the same. Let's not try to pretend that they are, and let's not try to meld them into the same thing. That takes something of the truth and beauty of each of them away.
Right.
There's things you can learn, and you can disagree, and you can walk away saying, I don't believe that's true.
Yeah.
But I can still honor that person's story, and that's something I really enjoy about him. He needs to come on here, so
all right,
get him on.
We'll put him on the list.
No doubt.
Yeah, we're backlogged already into like April, so but cool. Well, what do you think is kind of the future for Theology on Tap? Bigger, better,
we're gonna
more
be famous
controversy,
and rich, and people no,
Leave
I'm
our
kidding.
jobs.
Yeah.
Sorry. Hold on.
Yeah,
If
we
my
just
boss
have to
is
figure out.
listening.
I was like, yeah, don't say that.
Oh no.
The word monetize needs to be worked in here at some point. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. But I mean, there's an indefinite number of things to talk about, right?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, we've got ideas that would take us years to finish up, and
hence the radio show, so we can help maybe fill in some of
do
those
some
gaps.
of that here. But we, like I said, in Christmas time, we're doing this Christmas Mythbusters, and then we do this every other month. And so in February, we're going to come back and talk about transhumanism, which is kind of that whole Black Mirror stuff. Our AI is going to take over.
Mm-hmm.
That should be really interesting.
Yeah,
for sure. So yeah, it's not just religious things. I mean, I think in general, like if you're a Christian, right, and you actually want to reach people who don't know because that's really kind of the goal, right? I mean, it's to
one of them. Yeah,
it's to edify Christians, like so that Christians who come to these
Christian word, edify.
It's to
Encourage.
educate,
Just
build up, whatever.
build up. Oh,
Yeah.
that's
I think Paul said something about that.
yeah.
Okay, so it's to help Christians in their walk of faith and their journey. Someone here has a church named Journey.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well,
That's him.
Okay. Yeah.
Guilty as charged.
Okay, and so it's okay. Mine is called First Lutheran. We were the first ones here. Like we planted that flag, baby, in Houston in 1851. Bam, we win. But anyway, I don't know what I was talking about.
No, you were
That's
talking.
okay.
You were talking about just the changes in Theology on Tap. I think one thing that's not going to change is that there will be great craft beer served.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
That there will be, but like the conversation cannot stay the same. It always has to be changing. We are in the most diverse city in the United States of America. Houston has so much shift and change that's going to happen, and we are proud to hopefully be the space where Christians who are discerning their faith and wondering or questioning even can come to find a space that might be a little less intimidating than Sunday mornings with a
definitely more approachable.
Yeah, we want to continue to be the most approachable place for Christians to come to the city. So we've got work to do still. We know we haven't reached the pinnacle, but we've got work to do, and we're excited about doing it.
I mean, the market is literally like unlimited, right?
Sure.
I mean, there are 1 million young people in Houston. So,
I know.
and how many are Christian? What are the statistics these days on say millennials or zillennials or zennials or whoever, whatever they're called?
Yourself.
Yeah, on like church attendance, and it's not just about church attendance. I don't want to reduce it to that, but I mean, it's pretty grim out there in terms
It's not great.
of
People
participation. So
calling themselves one of the quote non-Christian, atheist, agnostic, other spiritual. That's a big one. I'm on the dating scene, and I see that one a lot on dating apps. Spiritual, but not religious.
What does that mean, by the way? Have you learned that then?
I mean, I think it means they're open to some kind of energy outside of themselves, but beyond that, they're not going to say.
Yeah.
It's pretty similar to that.
And that's actually a very hard group to reach, right? Because, they won't be pinned down. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is that a lot of people, one of the ones that we did was about homosexuality. Like, what do Christians have to say about that? What do we think God or the Bible has to say about that? And I think we had a lot of people that came in that night just out of sheer curiosity, like, what are these crazy Christians going to say now? And I think that happens from time to time on some of the other topics too. People that definitely, it's not just that they wouldn't quote go to church. It's that they don't believe that any of this is really real, but they're definitely curious about where the conversation is going.
Yeah.
And then there's beer there.
So. That's it. And I find like a beer.
There's food too, by the way.
There is food.
Yeah, really good food usually.
Egg rolls one time. I was like dicing up a.
Yeah,
I'm like, remember when the
that?
Muslims brought the samosas?
Oh my God.
We need to have them back.
So good.
Anyway,
we
go
do
ahead.
need to have them back. Are we on the panel? Just need your samosas.
Yeah, right.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
But I was going to say beer or root beer is like the equalizer
Yeah.
for the conversation. When you have something in your hand that you can just, I don't know, there's just like this ease of tension. There's still tenuous moments, but there's this ease of tension when you walk in like saying, whatever we all believe in.
We all believe in beer.
Yeah.
And that's our new tagline, Evan.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Whatever we believe in.
By the way, let me say this. You
Sure.
said at the beginning as a joke something about can Christians drink? And I know that was a joke, but just in case there are listeners that this is the thing, I'm discovering that a lot of people, especially outside of Christendom, think that a lot of Christians think that. And I have found that most of the Christians I talk to, not all, most of the Christians I talk to follow this kind of line. There's nothing wrong with drinking. There's definitely something wrong with being drunk and kind of losing your mind. But there's a lot of verses in the Bible that talk about drinking and making the heart glad. And wine is kind of a symbol of joy and life and renewal in the Bible. So we are pro good craft beer and wine. And those
Paul
sorts
straight up tells Timothy to drink it for your stomach ailment. So
my stomach's hurting right
I know
now.
my stomach is really
Yeah.
So much pain.
No, yeah, I mean the water into wine and I mean
that happened.
Yeah, it has something to do with the logo as well. So
sure,
but no, I mean obviously, actually that one, maybe one of our future shows could be about like pot or something because I think that's harder. My argument against pot is that you don't smoke a joint to not get high, but you can drink a beer and not get drunk. So. But people, I've never smoked pot.
From Michael Jarbo.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know if I.
And then people argue like, oh well, yeah, but it says right here in 2 Thessalonians that everything God made, He said was good or something, or everything in the earth is good or some. I don't know what the verse is, but it's like, well, yeah, well, okay, then opioids are good because they come from the earth too.
Have you ever had back pain? Okay.
Well, I'm not that old.
We've derailed.
Actually, no. Actually, we're going to
just pot.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
No, but really,
Still at Kindred.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
No, but we all look to the pastor from Kindred sitting in the corner. No, but I don't know. There are limits. We actually don't encourage drunkenness. I mean, we do want to say that,
right.
but what would you say are the challenges to reaching young people? Would you say? I mean, right? So like we really do want, people to believe that Jesus is Lord, to come to let Him, maybe is the wrong word, but we want Him to be the Lord of their life and to live in His path. Now, we might interpret what His path looks like differently, but I would say for now, that's what we all want. So you work with young adults, what are the barriers? What do you hear? Yeah. And are they honest? This is my issue. Like, are they honest critiques of the Christian faith? Have they really been treated wrongly? Or is it just a matter of like, well, we basically want to smoke pot and play video games and be left alone, and we're not going to listen to you?
I honestly think it's a lot less of that. The people that I interact with, so I work a lot with people that are on the edge of faith. I lovingly call them my fringies. Some of them might be listening now. Hi, fringies. So in the fringe of faith, right? They're not believers. Maybe they're dipping the toe back in the water of church kind of stuff. I think most of them have legitimate reasons for not wanting to buy into this whole Team Jesus thing. And I think it comes from a couple things. One, I think I have this metaphor that I don't know if I made this up or I stole it from somebody, but you know how when you finally have a good version of a certain cuisine, like you finally have really good sushi, and then you realize all along you've been having bad sushi, and that's why you weren't a fan of sushi, but then you have a good sushi, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm going to eat the rest of my life.
You're not talking about HEB, are you?
Well,
because I love their sushi.
HEB, right? But then you go to Soma or something. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I can't afford those places. What are you talking about?
All day happy hour, Sunday and Mondays.
Yeah,
okay. Make it work, Evan.
Yeah, of course, because the fish shipment comes in on Tuesday, so of course Sunday, Monday.
Okay, we've hit a nerve.
Your metaphor is beautiful. Keep going.
Yeah,
keep going.
So,
sushi and Jesus.
I think that people haven't had the real Jesus or the good sushi. And so I think a lot of times what they're rebelling against or what they're done with is some concept that they've heard. Like, well, if you're a Christian, it means you can never have sex, or you can never have fun, or you can never drink, or whatever. So I think that's one of them. And then I think another one is just an age of relativism that says everybody has their own truth. You have yours, and that's lovely for you. That you believe Jesus was like a real guy who actually came back from the dead. Oh, that's sweet, and that you need that for your life.
Right.
But I don't. And some of them up to this point haven't felt like they really do need it. I obviously believe that they do, but so I think those are two things, right? The not having kind of a real idea of what real Christianity is, and then kind of this like everybody can do their own thing and it all works and it's fine.
Sure. And I think the church has caused a lot of damage and pain.
Yes.
And there are people that walk in limping and wounded theologically, and they come in and sit down, and the hope is that they might hear things that reminds them of their pain, which is not what we hope, but but then they might hear something different, or vice versa, right? And so you're not hearing just one thought and just saying deal with it. The diversity of thought and experience is what I think Theology on Tap has the edge on in the church from just a regular Sunday morning worship service, is that you get maybe not the full, but a really great buffet, to keep with the food image, a great buffet of different experiences. So that's why I really value that.
Yeah. There's a metaphor that a friend of mine named John Hopper came up with where he talks about if you have a bunch of kids that hang out and some of them tell stories about how they were attacked by a dog or bitten by a dog or scared by a dog. If you hear enough of those stories as a kid, even if you haven't been hurt by a dog, that you will maybe be scared of dogs. And Christianity, or the church rather, is kind of the same. Sometimes you've just heard so many of your friends tell stories about the church, like not being there for them when they went through their divorce, or being judgmental when they were questioning. You know, they asked questions and they got really crappy answers back. Can I say that on live?
Crap is fine.
Crap,
yes.
Cool.
Yes.
What about the following words? I'm kidding. No. And so that maybe our job as people at Theology on Tap, as Christians, is just to be the, quote, friendly dog. Be the thing that they think is scary and just show them that it's not scary. You can drink craft beer and you can make fun of each other like Michael and I do. And it's cool and it's fun and it's normal. And then maybe there's okay, well, now I'm listening, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so my concern about the younger generation is because I'm like the old man, get off my lawn guy, is that they're, they're just, they just don't care about anything. But that's not true, right? They care about a lot of things. And so
much passion.
They care about ultimate things. And they might even hashtag about them from time to time. So,
gosh, so much cynicism in your voice.
No, I'm just trying to be snarky. That's all. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's a hard group to reach. So yeah. If you can get them to even listen, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But I just don't know about equating myself with a dog. That's the only thing. I got to work on that.
Are you willing to make that sacrifice for Jesus?
Yeah. So I think
is what I'm asking.
Exactly. So when I think about, I don't think Hollywood helps. Now, where I'm going with this is, how many good descriptions of like the kind of Christianity that we would want to embody are out there on television, right? Very few, right? So I think about like John Lithgow in Footloose. Like he is the archetype. He's the preacher who doesn't allow dancing, right?
Pastor. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's kind of what everyone thinks. I mean, a lot of people think Christianity is. So I don't know if that's something we have to break down. Now I'm kind of like, John Lithgow was right all along, see what happened when he started dancing.
Oh my gosh.
And then he started going to the raves and he started dropping ecstasy and everything like that. But
we watch different Footloose?
I thought it was mostly about dancing.
I thought it was about dancing.
No, but doesn't he tell people not to dance?
He does, yes. Yeah. He's curmudgeonly and legalistic. And yes, so I do think some people think that about churchy people. But some churchy people are that way.
Or even like the minister in The Princess Bride, right? Marriage, true. Just he's boring. He's boring, or dumb, or slow, and it's just sort of this.
Or the priest in Spaceballs.
You lost me there.
Prince.
He says, "There you go." I'm like,
wasn't he the old guy marrying Prince Valiant? And what's her name? Yeah. Maybe we should do a whole show on like bad Hollywood pastors or bad Hollywood priests.
Oh, come on.
And we could do that one with Edward Norton and Ben Stiller, where they fall in love with the same girl.
No.
Leap of Faith.
Yes.
I think it's Leap of Faith.
I'm just saying random words.
Yeah, he's a Catholic priest, and then and Ben Stiller's a rabbi. So anyway, okay. But it's rarely. But the kind of public understanding, or I mean, you also have this like thing where probably 5% of church life is depicted in 95% of Christian media. Right, so think about like Joel Osteen. Okay, so really, it's a big church, but in the grand scheme of things, it's only one church in, say, Houston or America.
Yeah,
and yet he sort of dominates the podcast world and the television world, and he's and you could give lots of examples like that. So that's what people know of Christianity. It's like, oh, Oh, Christianity. Oh, well, that Joel Osteen guy, he's a fraud. He drives a Bugatti. And,
either Joel Osteen or they think that everybody's Catholic.
Yeah.
Because the Catholic Church is big, and that is part of it. One thing we didn't say at the beginning of this when we were describing how this whole thing got started is, the word denomination. I don't know if everybody knows that, but that's like different parts of the Protestant church, right? That believe slightly different things, but all agree on some kind of core things. We have several denominations represented in the leadership of this. So we've got like Michael Jarbo's in the Methodist Church. I'm Presbyterian. We've got some Baptists, Evans Lutheran. We've got some non-denominational voices, and on it goes. In fact, if I may go back to an earlier question, one of my least favorite Theology on Taps, and maybe one of Michael's favorites.
Well,
maybe not.
Come on.
So we had been getting a lot of questions about, what do you guys actually believe differently, like among the panel of itself? And so we decided to do one on
predestination,
something like that. But it was bigger, right? Like Presbyterian / Reformed theology. That's kind of that word for that camp. Versus, but not really versus, because we love each other, but Methodist, or the fancy word there would be Arminian, that theology. And so we each had someone come and kind of represent us. And the Presbyterians got our heinies handed to us because they brought in the bishop, and he was this lovely, compelling man.
Oh, who's just been teaching that for 30 plus years.
Like, I wanted to be Methodist when I left there.
Oh, the Methodist bishop of,
I'm kidding.
Of this area.
Of Houston,
okay.
Bishop Jones.
Bishop Jones,
hey, Bishop
sweet
Jones.
man.
Yeah.
I
brought in a razor.
Theology, but it was so good. They did so well, and we just kind of walked out with our tail between
it's like when you're playing church softball, and like the other church has like a Major League Baseball player on their team, and
right.
That's just not.
It was
fair.
something like that, but it was fun, and it's funny to joke about now. But there is like kind of a representation from across different sort of quote party lines within Christendom.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I want to go back to one of the questions then that was one of the bad episodes, or the bad evenings.
Okay.
Where you had the senior pastors.
Yeah.
And they were to talk about, because there's like 3 of us right here, so we could do it, right? And we could maybe get it right. They were asked, what was the question though? Like what does the church do wrong, or what's bad about the church?
The name of the whole thing is what I hate about the church is blank.
Okay.
We even had people write it down ahead of time, so they could be like really, really, really anonymous.
Yeah.
And then text in, but I mean, people didn't really go the direction we kind of thought they were going to.
Okay. But by the way, let me say too, you're listening to Theology on Air. We're here every Thursday at 5:00 on KPFT's HD2 channel. Call in anytime, by the way, 713-526-8737. I will do my best to look over there. See that bright red flashing light for line 1, but 713-526-8737 is the number. We got about 15 minutes or so. But yeah, so were the senior pastors to say what they hated about church, or were people to say what they hated, and then the pastors were to kind of offer, I hear your pain, or so what kind of things did people write in?
Oh my gosh, that's so long ago, Evan. You did not tell me you were going to ask that question.
Sorry.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Well, what kind of things would people hate about church? Let me guess. Judgmentalism.
Judgmentalism is a big one.
I mean, that's got to be big, right?
Hypocrisy.
Hypocrisy.
I think hypocrisy was a
so
theme.
What does hypocrisy really look like in the church? Because I kind of defend hypocrisy. You
defend hypocrisy.
Okay, in this sense.
Yeah, I'm going to need some context there, bro.
The only way you can be a hypocrite is if you have actual values that you are trying to attain, and you don't measure up to them, Now, granted, there's like bad forms of hypocrisy where you blatantly violate and lie about your own principles, right? Like you say, adultery is wrong, you leave the building and you go, have adultery. But to a degree, we're all hypocrites because we all have higher values than we live up to. Yeah. I mean, the 10 Commandments alone would suffice to, to say that those are
shame.
Yeah. So, I mean, so sometimes the accusations of hypocrisy are completely fair and more than fair, I think like, the Word of Faith, like prosperity gospel pastors who live in extravagantly wealthy homes and all, I think it's sick. I think that is hypocrisy on display. But I think that a person, preaching forgiveness who has a moral failing isn't a terrible hypocrite, I guess. So,
well, I think maybe that's more philosophical and I'm thinking more practical, but I'm thinking of things like I mentioned earlier, I'm on the dating scene, and you hear guys at church in like discussion groups in Sunday school say things like talking about like holy living and wanting to be honorable and have integrity. And maybe some of them, not all of them. And I think the guys at my church don't fall in this category. They're my friends.
Of course not.
But I think you find that they are the same ones that are on the dating apps acting like disgusting dogs, like being ugly to women, exploiting women, trying to have a one-night stand, trying to just hook up as that kind of thing. Yeah. So it's not so much that they are just really trying to live up to the values and not. It's that they're saying fake things on the front end. Yeah. And it's sounding believable.
Yeah. Or just the idea. I mean, like, then we go full circle back to that love conversation, right? Love God, love people, right? The some of the greatest commandments, right? That Jesus teaches us. And so then what is love exactly? And
what
does the church
love?
Okay.
Sorry.
Baby, don't hurt. Sorry. Thank you for that, Sarah.
We'll be here all week.
No, but like what? So like, how far do you go with love? Do you put conditions around love? The church. Some churches seem like they do, and so that level of hypocrisy. If Jesus came to teach truth and love, then how do you function when there are churches who don't welcome people because of who they are? Yeah. That sort of like practical stuff. Yeah. Like very baseline stuff. Yeah. Like, you told me that you love me, and when I came out of the closet, I don't feel that love. So how do I navigate that? And in my denomination, and all denominations have struggled in that regard with that. It's a big conversation, right? So hypocrisy to that level, like, and I think that night people were looking for these senior pastors to sort of be that, I'm sorry, I'm here. Let me know what we can do to help, and we're going to strive to be better in this church. And they did, kind of.
They were willing to. The night just didn't go the way that we thought.
Again,
so,
early on.
But what would we say, right? So like, I mean, so because part of what a pastor has to do or a church has to do is there are certain lines you have to hold. Sure. Like there are boundaries of what we consider Christian orthodoxy or the living out of the gospel or the social contract or whatever that we agree to. So it's like, I mean, just to push that point a little bit, we're going to disagree charitably here. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So like what does it mean if someone comes to me and says, you said that you were welcoming, but you weren't totally. What do they mean when they say welcoming? Do they mean I have to affirm their sexuality and their sexual choices in every way? That's the only way that I will meet their standard of being welcoming. You know what I'm saying? That to me isn't fair to me. Now they've come into the church and they've said, this is my standard of right living. You better meet it or you're going to be unwelcoming and you're going to be a hypocrite. And I'm saying, I don't think I'm being a hypocrite. I think I'm being faithful to what my Lord has taught. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think it goes both ways.
Right.
A little bit. I mean, now that said, I'm certain that there have been many LGBT persons who have been treated horribly by churches through the years. That was unwarranted and unnecessary. So, yeah.
It's just, a lot of times in what you just said, I heard a lot of my and I, and I think that's part of it's part of the Christian faith, is that to a degree, we all form our opinions on this ancient book that we have, the best representation of who God is. And unfortunately, there's some questions I have that aren't fully answered from the book, and I still I have to make some decisions on my own that come with reason, tradition, experience, the scriptures, right, that help to paint that image for me. And it's an ongoing thing. Like, I don't read the Bible the same way I did when I was 18, thank God. I wish I read the Bible a little bit more like when I was 10, but like I am a constant work, and my understanding of God looks a lot different than Sarah's, than my friend Jamal, who works on the south side of Chicago as a pastor, than Ashley, who's in the room, than you, Evan, and we're all striving to find and understand. In my opinion, it's hard to know what God is really saying when we're not actually God. Yeah. And so I think we all take our best stabs at it, and I don't know. And maybe
I hear you.
And feel free to push back.
Well, and this is what the next podcast is going to be about, I think. Is that correct? It's one of the next couple that's coming, is kind of different ways of looking at interpreting scripture, and how the heck do we know what it really means? That'll be good.
Well, and I mean, I think that really is at the heart of, a lot of the disagreements in the church are there are somewhere between what you might call hyper literal,
right,
and completely metaphorical,
Right.
are like, varieties of how you understand the Bible, right? So it's like, so it just has a kind of a spoiler though, right? So like hyper literal would say definitely 6 days of 24-hour creation.
Sure.
Definitely Job was a real person. Jonah was a real person. Adam and Eve were historical persons. I mean, just to hit the touch, the touchy things. And then the metaphorical would say everything is metaphorical. All those stories are metaphorical. All of them are life lessons. Paul wrote for himself. Paul is obviously a big touching point. So since we get so much of our theology from Paul and so on and so forth. So, or actually, just like last week, Doug Pagitt was in town for a debate, and he had this like whole theory about how the Old Testament is literally a conflict between the priests who want things to go a certain way and the prophets who are always advocating for change, and the prophets win. And I'm like, I've never heard that theory before, but I'm whatever. I'm sure it's out there.
Like flag football teams.
Yeah.
Priests and prophets.
Pretty much, yeah. And so, of course, Jesus is on the prophetic side of that, and, he's against the priests. And
Everything. I
think they go together. That's kind of, the priests were ordained by God and the prophets were ordained by God. And, yeah, there's maybe some, back and forth on that. But anyway, that was kind of, as an example, that was his theory.
Yeah.
But we want to end every show by asking, it's kind of your favorite thing about Christianity.
Ooh.
Yeah,
and
like your favorite and least favorite parts of Christianity.
Yeah, and so Sarah knew about this ahead of time.
Yeah.
So she's going to go first, and Michael can kind of think about it. We have a few minutes, so
and we never even got to talk about hell.
Well, hell. Well, wait. Well, I asked you what your favorite ones are. Was hell one of your favorites?
It wasn't, but we had a lingering question. You know what? We'll get to it another time.
Oh, I didn't know we had a lingering question.
It's all good.
We have time. We have 8 minutes.
Okay. Well.
Tell me about hell.
I thought maybe we could give you guys a little like quick version of how we charitably, maybe not disagree, but kind of talk through things.
Okay.
One of the questions that had come through on our last Theology on Tap, which is about spirits and angels and demons and ghosts and goblins and that kind of thing. This is around Halloween. One of the questions that came in, I think Michael Jarbo and I disagree about, but I think if we talk it out a little bit, we might realize we don't disagree quite so much. The question that came in was, if I don't believe in hell or the devil, can I still be a Christian? And the panelists said both things. Some panelists that answered said, no, you can't be a Christian. And some said, yeah, of course you can. And I think I probably quickly would have answered no. And would you have quickly answered yes?
I don't know. Not quickly.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, I would have.
Dive into how maybe you would have answered that in like 30 seconds.
In 30 seconds, yeah. Well, I just, I lean towards yes because, like, again, it's that question of, and I said this on the panel a while back, like, what are your must-haves on your faith table?
Yeah.
Like, if things fall off, if if Adam and Eve weren't real people, is that going to mess up my belief in God? No, not necessarily. If Jonah wasn't real, does that push comes to shove? No, right? Jesus died on the cross, right?
Yes,
like,
ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, sure, I'll go there. And so for me, when I understand my ability of my belief in God, that line of whether there is an actual hell is blurred because I'm not God. Thank God I'm not God.
I thank God for that too.
Right. Thanks, Sarah.
If you were, I'd be a lot nicer.
I know you would. And so I think for me, I just like limiting what God can or can't do is problematic to me. That God could have the ability for no one to be in hell, or if there is a hell, it's empty, right? And like, so I'm going to allow, do I believe in evil? Sure, that's a whole nother question.
Well, wait, actually, can I stop you there? Because I think that is why I was confused by your would-be answer, because to me, take hell out of it, but the devil part, if I don't believe in the devil, can I be a Christian? To me, the devil is a representative of, or maybe the author of, evil. And if that's true, if there was no devil, then ostensibly there would be no evil. And I think both of us would agree that the reason why we need a savior is because there's a problem. The problem is evil. Sometimes we use the word sin, but that's part of evil.
Sure.
So that's where I got kind of thrown.
I know it's like minutia, but like evil, does there need to be a personified version of evil for us to like believe in evil? I don't know if I have to go.
Okay.
I don't know if I go fully there. Like obviously, like Jesus was tempted by Satan. We see that image, but was it the writers understanding of what that was, or was there like a guy with red little horns and the
Oh,
pitchfork?
now we know that's a medieval depiction.
Well,
But it sounds like if the question had been phrased, if I don't believe in any sort of evil, can I be a Christian? We might have answered similarly.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
Because both of us feel like we have to be saved from something, rescued from something.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the clarification, is that I would put all of those in the same category: hell, Satan, evil. Whereas you're like, okay, well, maybe that's not exactly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so for me, it's not the deal breaker for my faith.
Yeah.
And there is that whole deal in seminary where they teach you that Gehenna is just a trash dump that was on fire outside of Jerusalem.
Where Judas took his life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
But
anyway.
yes.
Okay.
Okay. So there's a little snapshot.
There you go.
Did we solve only the greatest theological question of the day?
Yeah.
So, okay, well, good.
Well,
There we go.
like
Yeah. Yeah. I was a person who said no right away, just because even if hell is empty, it still exists. So I was taking a very literal
It's
approach
such
to
a
that.
like esoteric way to say, like, what does that even mean?
Well,
Anyway, but we don't have time now.
I don't know.
But
I'm just obviously I'm the snarky old man in this conversation who's happy to like take the Rob Bells of the world and just throw them off a cliff or
I
something.
saw Rob
You
Bell.
heretic.
Do that.
I saw Rob Bell last night here in
What?
Houston.
What?
I know.
Cool.
Oh,
Do you have a
how much
picture
do
to
those
prove
how much do those tickets cost? Because I can tell you what a speaking fee is. I bet.
Ooh.
Ooh, I didn't go there, did I?
Zing.
Why don't we get back to what we love and hate about Christianity?
Let's do it.
Um,
That's one of the things I hate are exorbitant speaking fees for Christian authors.
I know.
Anyway, but you know what? I'm also a capitalist, so hey, man, if he can make the money,
That's
I
true.
can't blame him. Okay, what do we love and hate about Christianity? Do I have to answer this too, or just you two?
Yeah, well, if time permits.
Okay,
sure.
you two go first.
I
You
don't
go.
know if I'd say hate, but dislike. What I dislike about Christianity is having to give up my sleep on Sunday mornings.
Oh.
Y'all.
Oh, come on.
No, but I'm serious. Like,